Okay, let's offer respect to Prabhupada. Om Jnana
Chakshunmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruvaya Namah.
I was born the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master has kindly opened my eyes with the shining torchlight of transcendental knowledge. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto his lotus feet. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Okay. So we may just give the ladies another minute or two.
Okay, yeah, that's all right. In the meanwhile, we can ask Bob. Bob, what have you been doing? Oh, he's running. Run away, bride. Don't run.
Here, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here. What do you want to ask?
Oh no,
Where were you?
I hadn't seen you for a while, so I asked Bhakti Mala, how's Bob? And she said you were good and that you were doing some more teaching, I think, exercise teaching.
Look, the problem for me was, I as you know, I'm waiting for knee surgery. 3 times they've cancelled my knee surgery with only about 10 hours notice, and it really.
I didn't know that. I didn't know you were waiting for knee surgery.
Yeah. I was supposed to go in, and honestly, it's heartbreaking because at 5 o'clock of an afternoon, knowing I'm going in the next morning, I'd get a phone call and they said, "Mate, I'm sorry, but we've got too many emergencies on, can't get you in." That happened 3 times, and mate, it wasn't easy for me. So
yeah, because you get all mentally prepared, right? And then it's a bit of a letdown for the.
Yeah, and I was in a lot of pain. Like if I don't take, I know you don't want the full story, but mate, if you don't take your painkillers early enough in the day, it catches up with you. And I was in constant pain, plus doing more classes, so it wasn't a good time for me. But anyway, here I am.
Oh wow! You're still continuing teaching, even though you got a sore knee, is it?
Oh mate, my knees are killing me, and so I just had to decide to let it go, and I go away, as I told you, in about 9 days. Then I'm off to Bali as well as Cambodia. So, mate, I'm going in June if everything goes all right.
Yeah, but the thing is,
for the knee
you didn't
surgery.
tell my name. If you would have to tell my name, they wouldn't cancel it.
I'll try that. But anyway, look, honestly, everything's
don't say my name. If I say my name, they will take you off from the list forever.
Everything's great. Thank you. Now I'm back on deck. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get started then.
So I just spoke to Bhakti, and she said she'd be on. So she should be on any minute.
That's all right. Oh, well. Probably putting their ladies take a while to put their makeup on, right?
Yeah, I know.
Well, Bob and me, we don't have. Bob, you got one in your life, and Abhay Prabhu has got. I don't have any. So
you're always early.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So this is the next few verses are very important verses, and Prabhupada spoke on these verses, text 5, which is today, and text 6 and text 7, which are all to do with death and what we should be thinking about at the time of death, and how what we're thinking at the time of death influences or affects where we go in the next life. So according to the Vedas, the thoughts that we have in our mind at the time that we leave this body, which we call death, that is a number one factor in determining where do we go in our next life. And hardly anyone would know that except for a follower of the Vedas. like that. Even other religious traditions, they don't have that kind of knowledge. So the Bhagavad Gita is giving us amazing information, very important information. And Krishna's speaking about the subject of the time of death is coming in response to Arjuna asking a question at the beginning of this 8th chapter. So we'll just look back at Arjuna's question. So he'd asked questions in the first 2 verses, text 1 and text 2. So the question which is getting answered today about death comes in text number 2. So look at that, 8th chapter, text number 2.
Eighth number 2, right?
Yeah. Who is the Lord of sacrifice, and how does he live in the body, O Madhusudana? And how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? So that's the question that's getting answered today. And how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? Yeah. So the first part of the question in text 2, the Lord of Sacrifice, that was answered in the previous verse, text 4, which we did last week. Yeah. Yeah. So this is actually the main time in our life. What's the main time in our life is the time of death. That's the most important time. Because whatever we think at that time, our last moments in this body determine where we go in the next life.
If you have to experience the death, there's only one way: you have to die. There's no way you can experience it.
Well, I mean, you don't say if you have to experience death. I mean, it's guaranteed. It said the only thing's guaranteed, right, is death and taxes. You know, those things are guaranteed, death and taxes. Some other things might be optional, but yeah, this is...
Tax, it might not be if you are a friend with the prime minister or something, but the death is unavoidable.
Yeah, yeah.
Guarantee, 100%.
Guaranteed. And sort of everyone knows that, although materialistic people tend to hide away from the fact, isn't it? I remember, you know, that before I met the devotees, nobody talks about death. Nobody. You don't have people having conversations about the time of death and all these kind of things and what's going to happen at death and like that. And of course, for most people, their understanding is when the body dies, that's it. There's no more life after death. There's no consciousness after death. There's no reincarnation, all that kind of stuff. There's no idea of the soul, so they don't have an idea the soul reincarnates into another body. So when this body dies, according to the atheistic people, then that's it all over. But the Vedas give us a whole different understanding that actually, yeah, the same as what everyone knows, that the body was born at a certain point and it's going to die at a certain point. So it's only temporary and you can't make it live forever. That's not possible. Materialistic people, sometimes they get into the idea that they can make it live forever. And therefore they, you know, take all kind of...
If you think for imagine, if you have lived forever, how boring it's going to be. What would you do? Like, you know, if you live forever, how boring. Like, really? You can't.
The only people that really want to live forever usually are the super rich ones. Like Walt Disney, for example. You know, Walt Disney, right? He's the one that created Disneyland. He was, you know, super rich and everything. So he wanted to live forever. So, and he blindly believed in the scientists, and the scientists have always been promising that they're going to come up with some miracle cure for death. You know, like, you know, find a cure for cancer, find a cure for AIDS, find a cure for hepatitis, for jaundice, whatever, blah, blah, blah. They also trying to find a cure for death. So, and he blindly believed in that. So he actually had his body frozen. What do they call that? They call that
something like cryovac.
Cryogenics or something. Yeah, cryogenics, I think it's called. And so he had his body frozen with the idea that when they came up with this miracle cure for death, which they were promising, then he would be thawed out, he would take the pill, and he would live forever. But he didn't calculate on one thing. Do you know what he didn't calculate in his equation?
Krishna.
Well, he definitely didn't calculate that.
You don't know about the Krishna.
But his plan really got stuffed up because he had children. And as you know, children can't get your inheritance until Papa dies. You know, Mama and Papa dies. So Papa technically wasn't dead. He was just frozen. So they couldn't collect their inheritance, which was a lot. You know, Walt Disney was like mega rich. So there's a lot of money that was stuck there because the father wasn't dead. So they were all, you know, very unhappy as children. So they got together. Walt Disney paid the cryogenics company $1 million to keep him frozen, right? His children paid the company more than $1 million to pull out the plug, to pull the plug.
Oh, so they can get the inheritance.
They pulled the plug on Dad, and there's no pill. There was no pill then, and there's still no pill, you know, decades afterwards. And poor old Papa just died, you know. So materialistic people, some of them have that ambition to live forever. Of course, we know also in the Vedas, Hiranyakashipu, the big demoniac father of Prahlad, he wanted to live forever. So it's not a new idea that we want to live forever. So Hiranyakashipu, he wanted to. So he performed severe austerities, and he pleased Lord Brahma. And he asked Lord Brahma that I want to live forever. I don't want to die. And Brahma said, sorry, mate, I can't give you that benediction because I also have to die. You know, I'm not free from that myself. How can I give anyone else that blessing? I also have to die. So that's an impossible wish, you know, for the body to live forever. But he thought he could get around that. So he still asked Brahma for some blessings, but in a roundabout way, thinking he was stopping himself from dying. So what was one of the blessings he wanted? That I don't want to die in the daytime or in the nighttime. Okay. So, well, that's pretty much covered it, right? If I'm not going to die in the day and I'm not going to die at night, well, I'm not going to die, right? So, and I'm not going to die inside a building, and I'm not going to die outside a building. So I thought, well, that pretty much covered it. And I'm not going to die on the ground, and I'm not going to die in the sky. Well, then where can you die? And then I'm not going to die because of any weapon. Not because of any weapons, right? And then I'm also not going to die
by a human or animal.
Yeah, by a human, by an animal, by a demigod, by a, you know, Rakshasa, by this and that. So he thought he covered everything. Well, I'm going to live forever. I'm immortal, right? So Brahma gave him all those blessings. Okay, you can have that one, you can have that one, you can have that one, you can have that one. And he became very proud. And he conquered the universe like that. And he kicked Indra, the king of heaven. He kicked him out of heaven. He sat on Indra's throne, and he ruled the universe. Unfortunately, he treated his son very badly, who was a great devotee. So eventually we know that God himself, in the form of Nrsimhadev, came to protect his dear devotee Prahlad from his evil father. When the father tried to kill Prahlad, then Nrsimhadev killed him. So how was Nrsimhadev able to kill him with all those benedictions? He didn't break all the promises of Brahma. He could have done, because he's God. He doesn't have to follow anyone's blessings. But he wanted to keep all the words of his devotee Brahma. Brahma is also a devotee of God. So he killed Nrsimhadev killed Hiranyakashipu in the sunset. So it's not the day, not the night. He killed him in sunset when the sun was setting. Technically, it's not day, it's not night. He killed him on his lap, which is not on the ground and not in the sky. It's on his lap. He killed him in the doorway in the palace doorway. So not inside, not outside. And he killed him with his fingernails, which is technically not a weapon. And he himself was half man, half lion. So he's not a human and he's not an animal like that. So he's half. So he kept all the benedictions and still killed him. Yeah, so you can't escape death of the body. So that's a fact. However, the good news is that the soul never dies. The soul never dies. So let's look at that. The second chapter, text 20.
620?
No, second, 220.
220.
2.20.
For the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever-existing, and primal. He is not slain when the body is slain.
So slain is an old English word for being killed. So yeah, when the body is killed, then we are not killed. So that's the good news. It's 100% guaranteed the body will be killed, slain, but we're not going to be slain. That's the good news. And as it says in the beginning, for the soul there is neither birth or death at any time. So for the body, there's definitely birth and death. Body means there has to be, whatever's born has to die. You got it? So anything that has a birth, 100% guaranteed there must be a death, you know. And in between that is old age and disease, you know. So these are the four main miseries: birth, old age, disease, and death. And but the soul doesn't have a birth. So that means we were living before the body was born. We were living before the body was born. And we continue to live after it dies. And obviously we're living now in between, you know. So between birth and death, we're living. And before birth and after death, the soul lives. And then it says we're eternal. We're primeval, ever existing, unborn, like that. So Krishna here is describing the real nature of the soul, like that. So this is... Yep.
Sorry, can I just ask this? You'll often hear people say we're all on the spiritual path, but some are further ahead than others. Would that relate to that verse where people that have been reincarnated, depending on where they are in the pecking order, sometimes you're so far behind others, like what would you say? Your mental capacity, say, is far weaker than someone else's. Do you think that could relate to that?
Yeah.
That text.
Yes. Yeah. So some are more spiritually enlightened than others because they've had, more births or some, in the practice of yoga or spiritual practice. So some are more advanced. So imagine, you in one life you make 5% progress in spiritual realization, and then you die, and then you take birth again, and you start off from where you left off. So you did 5% your last life. So in this life, you get from, say, 5% to 20% realization. And then next life start off at 20%. And you go from 20% to 40%, so you get the idea. So slowly you're building up your spiritual realization, and you don't lose it. So wherever you left off, so imagine you got a spiritual bank account. So whatever you've done, that gets kept. and you start off from where you left off in your last life in terms of your spiritual realization. And I've seen that. Some people, they walk in the door to the temple and they're already so much advanced in Krishna consciousness. You know, the first day they walk in the door. And other people, you know, they've been practicing Krishna consciousness for 20 years and they're still not as advanced as the guy that just turned up a week ago. You know what I'm saying? So you can't just measure it in terms of, you know, how long you've been doing your yoga practice or spiritual practice in this life, because it's you got to see the big picture. So some people have been doing it for many lives. Like one of Prabhupada's disciples named Bhakti Swami, he passed away recently during COVID time. Sadly for all of us, you know, he's not here anymore physically. So he had an Indian body, and Prabhupada could tell when he first met him that he's very advanced. So he immediately gave him Harinam initiation. So that must be them now. You might want to lock Vajra up. I've just got some people coming to camp the night here. Jayanti's going to talk to them. So what happened was when Prabhupada met Bhakti Churu, then he immediately gave him initiation, which is very rare. Normally they would have to wait at least 6 months. You know, have been shown to be sincere in their chanting Hare Krishna and following the regulated principles for 6 months. So, but he immediately gave him initiation, and at the same time he gave him the second initiation, means Brahmana initiation, which is the qualification to be able to go on the altar and worship the deities and everything like that. And he gave him sannyas.
Right. All three in one
go. He got
everything
all in one go, because Prabhupada could see, you know, he's very advanced. He's very, you know, very advanced like that. So yeah, people are at different levels. We're not all started from the same point in this life like that, because this journey is a long journey for many lifetimes like that. And we can read a little bit about that idea. We read about it not so long ago in the end of the 6th chapter. Towards the end of the 6th chapter, I'll just find the exact verse. Yeah, text 45. So the 6th chapter.
6:45.
Yeah.
And when the yogi engaged him.
No, hang on. We'll go a little bit. We'll start a little bit earlier. Yeah, we'll start a little bit earlier. Okay, start at text 41.
Hold on. I've got it.
The unsuccessful yogi, after many years of enjoyment on the planet of a pious living entity, is born into a family of righteous people or into the family of rich aristocracy.
Okay, so what this is saying is that someone's practice like mystical yoga process. I mean, there's many different yoga processes. Karma yoga, jnana yoga, stanga yoga, bhakti yoga, like that, so many yoga processes. But basically yoga means you're trying to connect with God, and there's different ways of connecting with God, and therefore you'll have, you know, karma yoga, jnana yoga, stanga yoga. So there's different ways of connecting. Connecting with God means yoga. So there's different ways of doing that. So this verse is referring to someone that's practiced yoga in a previous life. So when they die, what will happen is, it's saying here, they'll first of all go to heaven. They'll go up to a higher planet, heaven, and they'll enjoy there for so many years. And then they'll come back down to earth. So they practiced yoga on earth. That means they tried to connect with God, but they weren't successful. It means they didn't get 100%. So they went to heaven. When they died, they went to heaven for so many years, enjoyed there. Then when that enjoyment period is finished, which is 10,000 years, it's mentioned in other places, then they come back down to earth. And where are they born? They're born in a human body. And what kind of human body? They're born in a family of righteous people. So like a family of brahmanas, a righteous family. Righteous means, very pious, very good, like that. Not a family of hippies or something, or drunkards or rascals, not a rascal family. A very religious family like that, a very pious family. So that's one option, or they'll be born in a rich family. Some, not necessarily rich families are all pious. Some of them also, rich families may drink and eat meat and so many things. But that's regarded as a benefit. Why would it be regarded as a benefit to be born in a rich family?
Well, when you say rich, you're obviously talking material.
Money rich. Materially rich.
Money rich, then he can expand his knowledge, because if you got money, you must have a connection with the king or politician or something, and he will able to spread the word wisely. Like if he's a rickshaw driver, how much he can spread, and if he's a rich man, he can spread more.
Yeah, I mean that's later on, assuming the person takes to spiritual life again. But see, the advantage of the rich family is, normally most people have to spend a good portion of their time in their life working, right, to make money, right? You know how much time we have to spend, right? 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours a day, 5, 6, 7 days a week. But if you were born in a rich family, you don't have to spend that time, So if you don't have to spend that time working to make money, you have the potential to spend it on developing your spiritual realization. So it can be an advantage. However, sometimes what happens is you're born in a rich family and you get into sex, drugs, rock and roll, because you've got all that access to money and you go down the wrong path. So, but the point here in this verse is that if you're born in a rich family, you don't have to work hard for money, which means it does give you an opportunity to fast track your spiritual realization in that life like that. So that can be a benefit. Whether you use it or not, that's up to the individual. And of course, like what Gulshan says, if you do have a lot of wealth, that can help you in your preaching and being able to spread your spiritual knowledge. That is possible too. Okay, let's read the 42. This is another scenario. Bob, do you want to read this one?
Yep. Just bear with me. Okay. All right. If unsuccessful, after long practice of yoga, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Certainly such a birth is rare in the world. Okay.
So text 41 is giving us the scenario of a short yoga practice. So you've practiced yoga for a short period of time. This verse is if you practice yoga for a long period of time, maybe even many lifetimes, and you're much advanced. Maybe your spiritual account is like 70 or 80%, like that. So you're nearly there, but you didn't quite make it. When you finished your last life, you weren't quite there. You weren't 100%, but you were nearly there. So what happens to such a person? He takes birth in a family of devotees, in a family of transcendentalists. And that's said to be the best birth in this world. That's the best birth. You're born in a family of pure devotees of God. You're born in a family of your parents love God. They're fully devoted to God. You're born in that family, so that's a very fortunate birth. Means from day one you pop out there's God's names being chanted, you're being given prasadam, you're going to your baby's bodies carried to the temple, you know, you're hearing all the talks about God from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and everything like that. And you never eat meat in your life, you never drink and all that kind of stuff. There's no sinful activities, and you're always hearing about God and everything right from day one. So that's a great blessing, a great fortune, you know. And it's not by chance, you know. It's not by chance that someone's born in a family of devotees. It's not by chance that someone's born in a rich family. It's not by chance you're born in a family of pious people. It's because, you know, the person's, you know, had some advancement in spiritual life, you know, previously, and they've been given an opportunity to, you know, further develop that.
I saw some kids the other day. I was up at the farm, and honestly, they were only, I don't think he'd have been 8 or 10, and he was playing the cartels and playing them well, you know, and I thought,
yeah, and that's because they've been doing it in their last life, you know. Yeah. Otherwise, how is it, like you say, an 8-year-old is expert on the mridanga drum and playing harmonium and stuff? Because they were doing it. They were already a devotee in their last life. They were a devotee before, and they're just carrying on where they left off in this life. At a certain point, it'll just take it up again. Yeah. You know, it's amazing. And
will that happen if in someone music as well? If somebody is a good musician last life, and some people, they just God give.
Of course,
musician.
Even if you just put spirituality out of the picture, even just your material abilities, you know, like one mum and dad, they were out in their backyard and they heard this far out, like this piano music coming from inside their house, and it just confused them because the only person they knew was in the house was their little kid. Yeah. And their little kid had never had music lessons or anything like that. It was just a little kid. And sure enough, they went in the house and it was their kid. Da-da-da-da, 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 you know, on the piano, you know, that. So, and then they started to investigate reincarnation because they never had believed in reincarnation up to that point. But that for them was just, there's no other way to explain that. That my little kid was actually playing piano in his last life. You know, that's the only way to understand that. Otherwise, how's it possible, you know? So there's many, you know, case studies on that, you know, kids that have special abilities. And some, we know some people even have a memory of their last life, you know. They even have a memory of their past life, you know, like that. Some people even have shown like where they lived in their past life and where their body was buried. And one person was murdered, and that kid actually went to the door of the person that murdered him in his last life, and actually the guy completely freaked out when he started to tell all the information that, you know, this is the one, he murdered me, and like that, he stabbed me in the back or whatever like that. And the guy admitted it. Yeah, I did it, you know, like that. And like that, he actually caught the person from his last life, you know. So it's, yeah, some people have those past life, you know, memories and things like that. And so, yeah, it's very interesting. And so, yeah, we're following on from where we left off in our last life. And some people, like Bob is saying, you know, more further down the track than others. And that's fine, you know, that's all good, you know, and we shouldn't worry about that. And if you see someone more advanced than yourself, what should you think? What are the two ways you could think about it? If someone's better than me, what are the two more advanced spiritually, or richer than me? Or
I guess it's something to aim for.
Yeah, it can be like a source of inspiration.
Yeah.
They're so advanced in Krishna consciousness, so means it's possible. It can be done. Imagine if you could not see anybody that was advanced in spiritual life.
Sure.
What would happen? Oh, you'd all become depressed.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not possible. I can't do it. No one's ever done it. No one's ever achieved love for Krishna or anything. But the very fact that we see, persons like Prabhupada, and tears coming out of his eyes sideways when he sings about Krishna and everything, and makes you think, well, if he can do it, maybe I can do it too. That's a big crime the Christians have done by saying that Jesus is God. Actually, Jesus is not God. He's a son of God. What they should be seeing is, well, Jesus is a devotee of God. He's a son of God, like myself, like ourselves. If he can become so advanced in love for God, so we can. But now what have they done? They've said, no, Jesus is not an ordinary person. He's God himself, in the flesh. So now they don't have that inspiration. Now, and what do they think now? They think we're eternally sinners. That's what they say. We can never get free from being sinful. That's what Christians say. That we're born to sin. So that's not very encouraging for you to get your act together, and give up your sinful activities. What's that?
Very negative.
Very negative, so, and there's not much inspiration there. Well, yeah, we're born sinful. We just have to stay sinful, and everyone is just like that.
Why read the Bible?
Yeah, what's the point? We're just no. But so their idea to get around that is that, well, doesn't matter how sinful you are. If you just believe in Jesus, then that's going to save you. So just believing in Jesus is going to save you. So you can continue being a sinful wretch, a number one, rascal. You can continue doing whatever you want and just believe in Jesus, and in the time of death, you're going to be saved. So it's a real, not very sensible philosophy. But the best thing is if you see that there are people that are very advanced in yoga and spiritual practice, then that's encouraging for us. If they can do it, I can do it. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to set up like a self-sufficient garden, so that people can see, well, Abai's doing it. He's living self-sufficiently. I also can do it. Imagine if you never seen anybody live self-sufficiently, you'd think it's not possible. So, we're trying to be an example to show that it is possible. Then other people can follow that example. So in the same way, Prabhupada has become he's very advanced in Krishna consciousness. So obviously also his past, there's a lot of, advancement in his past. Of course, it's said that he had a very unique situation, which is that he was sent by Krishna from the spiritual world. So that's not exactly the same scenario as us. But still, he is a living entity like us. He's not God. But there are other living entities like us that are working their way up, that are not sent, from the spiritual world like Prabhupada. We see very advanced, spiritual masters like that. And they didn't start off a spiritual master. They started off just a disciple of Prabhupada, like that, or even a disciple of a disciple of Prabhupada. And through practicing, they've become very advanced. We could see that, And many, even in Prabhupada's time, one of Prabhupada's disciples actually passed away before him. Actually, earlier in 1977, Prabhupada left in November of 1977. So earlier in 1977, I think it was around May of 77, one of his disciples named Jayananda passed away. He was the one that built the early Rath Yatra carts, the chariots for Rath Yatra. His name was Jayananda. And when he died of leukemia, and Prabhupada said to everyone that he has gone back to Godhead. So that's encouraging for us, that he is just an ordinary person like us. And Prabhupada said he went back to Godhead. So if he can go back to Godhead, we also. I mean, he was super serious about his Krishna consciousness and sincere, but we also can do that if we want. That's our choice, you know, how serious we're going to be, how sincere we're going to be. But it is possible. And if you see others that have done it, then it makes you think it's possible. If no one's ever done it, like I say, you'd think it's impossible. I give up. It's not even point trying, you know, but it has been done. There are many that have become successful. And even Krishna says that here, if I can find that verse, it goes, how does that go? If ever you can't remember where a verse is, even if you remember the first line, like I can remember the first line, you can look it up in the back. It's got an index of the Sanskrit verses. So I'm going to do that. Bahunam, so I can remember B. So Bahunam, so I look up B in the back. Bahunam Janmanamante. Here it is, 7:19. So yeah, chapter 7, text 19. So yeah, we've just gone through that a little while ago. Someone can read that.
After many births and deaths, he who is actually in the knowledge surrender unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such is a great soul, is very rare.
Yeah, so it takes time, you know. So like I said, life after life, you get a bit more knowledge, a bit more knowledge, a bit more knowledge. And like it says here, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me. So when the knowledge is full, Gyanavan in the verse, Gyanavan means full knowledge. So when the knowledge is full, then the person surrenders to Krishna and then can go back to Godhead. I was actually thinking of another verse. That's also a good verse, but I was thinking of another verse. So I think that one's, where's that one? Vitaragabhaya Kroda. Yeah. So that's the same thing again. I remembered the first line, so let's look it up. Vitaragabhaya Kroda. V. Yeah, this is the one I wanted. Vitaragabhaya Kroda. Yep, 4:10. Yeah, that's the one. Chapter 4, text 10. Yeah.
Being free from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me. Many persons in the past become purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attain transcendental love for me.
So this is encouraging. Why? Because it says many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. So many persons have reached the point where they have pure love for Krishna. You know, so, and that pure love for Krishna developed as their knowledge develops. So slowly, like the other verse said, you develop more knowledge, and the more you understand God, the more you know God, you love him. That's an important point to talk about. You know, in order to love someone, you have to know them. You tell me, is it possible to love someone if you don't know anything about them?
Very difficult.
It's just like even say, you know, I love my wife very much, and then someone says, oh, what's her name? You say, I don't know. What does she look like? I don't know. Can she cook? I don't know. What kind of clothes does she wear? I don't know. You know, so it's like you can't love someone unless you know them. First of all, you have to get to know someone, and then through knowing about their qualities, you know, they have so many nice qualities and everything. They're so beautiful and so handsome and so strong and so powerful and so rich and everything. and then, you know, they're very humble and they're nice and kind and compassionate, and they're very patient and very tolerant and very forgiving. And so the more you get to know about the person's qualities in that, then automatically and naturally you love the person. But is it possible to love someone if you don't know anything about them? No, of course not.
Yeah.
So this is what we're doing. We're trying to get to know God. And the more you get to know God, then naturally you'll develop your love for God. And you might have heard about Rukmini. So when Krishna was on the earth, he accepted more than 16,000 wives, 16,108, and Rukmini was the first. And it's very interesting, the story of how is it that she just got attracted to Krishna, that she decided to marry Krishna. So what was the reason why she wanted to marry Krishna?
She got to know him.
Yeah, she got to know him. And how did she get to know him? It wasn't that she was hanging out with Krishna every day, because in Vedic culture, a woman doesn't hang out with a man unless you're already married, you know, so there's no possibility of like just getting to know Krishna by hanging out with him as his boyfriend, girlfriend or whatever. So what had happened was, she's a princess. Her father's name was Bhishmaka, and in the Vedic culture, the great yogis and devotees, they travel all around and preach about Krishna to the kings. They go to the king's palaces and they talk about Krishna and everything. So that's an important part of the culture. You wanna inject Krishna consciousness, especially to the leaders, especially to the kings. Well, now we have the modern leaders, politicians. You mainly want to get the Krishna consciousness to them. Why? Because if the king becomes a devotee, if the king becomes Krishna conscious, then automatically all the public will, because that's what the leader's doing. And generally the common people follow whatever the leader's doing. So that was what they used to do. So Narada Muni would go to Rukmini's father's palace and be talking about Krishna. Krishna is so beautiful, like thousands of cupids, and he's got a beautiful color of the rain cloud, and he's always playing the flute, and he wears a yellow dhoti, and his body is bending in 3 places. Did you know that? The way Krishna stands, his body bends in 3 places. It's called Tree Banga. Tree Banga. Tree means 3 and Banga means bent. And it looks very beautiful when the body is bent in 3 places. Where are the 3 places? Do you know?
One is head, one is waist, and the leg, feet.
Yeah. Yep. But more specifically, so the neck is bent. So the neck is a bit bent, and the waist is a bit bent, and the knee is bent.
Yeah.
You know, so Krishna's. I don't know if I have a picture right here. Let's see. Show that. It's a bit hard to see maybe, but see how Krishna's leg is like this? So Krishna always stands like that with his leg bent. You like that. So, and it looks very beautiful. Like that. So she would always be hearing from Narada and other sages describing about how beautiful Krishna's the most beautiful person. He's the most powerful person. He can kill demons, you know, very easily and everything. He's so strong. And he's the source of all wealth, and he's so famous and everything like that. You know, 6 opulences, we've talked before about God is full of 6 opulences. So just hearing about all Krishna's qualities, slowly, her heart got attracted to Krishna, to the point where she decided, I'm only going to marry Krishna, and I don't care what it takes. If I have to do severe austerities and go through difficulties for many lifetimes, I don't care how many lifetimes, but I only want Krishna as my husband. I don't want any ordinary man as my husband. And what did she think about ordinary men? She not so good. She said ordinary men, why would I want to marry a man who is who is just basically a bag of skin covering mucus, bile, and stool. Because basically that's what the material body is, right? It's like a sack or a bag of skin, you know, covering bones and mucus, bile, and stool.
Krishna reside in this body, in the very suksham roop.
Yeah, that's a spiritual form, though. No mucus, and stool, and so forth.
Body is a temple.
Yeah. So she had heard from Narada that Krishna's body is a transcendental, you know, Satchidananda. Krishna's body is eternal and full of knowledge and full of bliss. Whereas this body is the opposite, you know, it's temporary and full of ignorance and suffering. You know, so just by hearing, she had developed the knowledge about Krishna, and automatically she developed love for Krishna. So yeah, that's the process. So life after life, slowly we develop our knowledge about God and develop love for God. And then when it's complete, we go back to Godhead. But we just slowly adding up, you know, like I said, 20% this life, blah, blah, blah. However, you know, usually it's a slow process, like I've indicated, but it can be accelerated in a special case. So ordinarily, and most Hindu Brahmins would have this understanding, that it's very difficult to get liberated from the material world. So that was the general rule. It was very difficult to get liberated from the material world. It takes many lifetimes until you can attain perfection, perfect knowledge and perfect spiritual realization, and then get liberated and go back to the spiritual world. But that idea of it as being a slow process to get liberation changed about 500 years ago. That's my clue. So what changed about 500 years ago that made it possible to get liberated, or it means go back to Godhead in one lifetime? In one lifetime.
The Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Yeah, because of Chaitanya, because of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Can liberate it. Yes.
Yeah. He said he's, yep, Gulshan.
Kevalam and Kevalam Harinam, something like that.
Kevala Ananda Kanda. Kevala Ananda Kanda. So he's given a simply joyful process: chanting, dancing, and feasting. Prabhupada said these three things: chanting, dancing, and feasting. If you do these three things, Prabhupada said you can go back to Godhead in this life. Not many lives. You know, what Krishna's talking about here, you know, the yogi taking birth in a rich family or a pious family or a devotee family like that. So there was a slow process, slowly.
You can bypass all that straight if you do these three things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
No, without any doubt, I'll sign it. No doubts about it. Prabhupada said that in the end of many lectures, that I guarantee, he said, I guarantee if you chant 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra every day and follow the 4 regulator principles, no meat eating, no intoxication, illicit sex and gambling, I guarantee at the end of this life, you will go back home, back to Godhead. And all the devotees would go, Haribol! Haribol! Jai Prabhupada! Jai! You know, so it's very encouraging. You know, it's very, and he's not just saying that to encourage us, but it's not real. He's saying it because it's the truth, you know, and the truth is encouraging. And that's only possible because of Lord Chaitanya. So Lord Chaitanya is so pleased if anyone in Kali Yuga chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and he'll just give them a ticket back to Godhead. You know, even the lowest person, you know. We were just singing a song. We had actually one Prabhupada disciple visited us for 3 days named Jita Garisha. So he got initiated by Prabhupada in Australia. And so he inspired us to sing some bhajans, some songs. And one of those songs by Narottam Das Thakur was saying that Samsara visanale divanishiya jwale jurate nakainu pai. And it says, Dina hina jata chilo hariname udarilo tara shakshi jagai madhai. So what that's saying is that hariname udarilo, that the holy name delivered many fallen souls. Dina hina jatachilo. Dina hina means very low persons, very sinful persons were delivered by the holy name. Dina hina jatachilo hariname udarilo. So the holy name delivered many low-born sinful persons. And what's the example of that? Jagai and Madai, two examples. They were very sinful. It said they did every sin that's possible to commit, except for one. There's only one bad thing they didn't do. They never offended a devotee. They never blasphemed a devotee. But everything else, they killed cows, they ate cows, they drank wine, they engaged in prostitution, they lied and gambled, and everything they did. But the only thing they hadn't done was they hadn't offended a devotee. But they did do finally when they hit Lord Nityananda on the head with a wine pot. They hit him on the head, and then Lord Chaitanya was going to immediately cut their heads off with a Sudarshan chakra. But then Lord Nityananda, he pleaded on their behalf. Lord Nityananda, as a kind-hearted, merciful devotee, he pleaded on their behalf and said, don't kill them. You have to deliver them. He said, in Kali Yuga, all the souls are sinful like these two. If you kill these two, you'll have to kill everyone because they're all sinful. So he said, you have to deliver them. You have to deliver them. And so he gave them both love of God. He gave them both love of God. And tears were coming out of their eyes sideways. And they promised to chant Hare Krishna. And they promised to not commit sinful activities anymore. And he gave them love of God. You know, so that process can work for everyone. It doesn't matter how sinful we are. We just have to chant Hare Krishna and try our very best not to commit further sinful activities, and then we'll be liberated, we'll be delivered. So that worked on Jagai and Madai 500 years ago, and it'll work today just the same, you know, just as effective today.
Yeah, it's when we done that Braj Mandal Parikrama there, Navdeep, then they take it the first day to the place where Jagai Madai was there in the Parikrama. First they take it there.
Yeah.
That's very nice. Yeah. And then last they take where the Mahaprabhu took it that the boat to the Ganges. That's the last stop there, and the little it's a Shiva temple there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. They were actually born in very good families. Like it was mentioned, we just read about being born in a family of pious Brahmanas. So they were born in a pious Brahmana family, but they had bad association when they were young. They hung out with some, you know, obviously not good people, and they developed bad behavior through that association. So that's often what stuffs us up in Kali Yuga, is that we associate with some low-class people and develop some, you know, bad behavior from them. So we have to be very careful. It was very sad what I saw a couple of days ago, just showing the condition of the world today. That in the morning I was taking our dog Vajra for a walk, as I usually do up the hill. So I was about 1.5 kilometers away from the house, and I didn't have my glasses on, so I can't see so well. But I saw something on the side of the road. I thought, is it a dead animal like a horse or a cow or something lying on the side of the road? And I got closer and I realized it's not an animal, it's a human being. So it was a human being, and luckily it wasn't dead, but it was sleeping. And no clothes, naked, completely naked. So about in his 30s, somewhere in his 30s, you know, completely naked man, all like in a fetal position, like all huddled up. And it was early in the morning, so it was a little bit cool. So he was all huddled up, trying to sleep on the side of the road. And I said, I was completely surprised. And I said, "Hey, mate, are you okay? You know, is everything all right? Can I help you?" And he said, "No, I'm not all right. I'm dehydrated and I'm very hungry." And I said, "Well, where's your car? Did you come down the hill or you came up the hill?" He said, "I don't know where my car is. I came through the bush." So he'd been walking through the forest, and New Zealand forest is a lot thicker than Australian forest. So his body was all cut. His body had many scratches from walking through the forest. So that explained a little bit. But then I said, "But why don't you have any clothes on? You know, why are you naked?" And he said, "I was running away from the police." That still doesn't make much sense. But anyway, why would you take your clothes off because you're running away from the police? I don't know. But anyway, and then he said, "So I was running away from the police, but I didn't do anything illegal." So trying to figure out what that's all on about. So anyway, it's not all very clear what's going on there. Anyway, I said, "Would you like some help?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "I'll go and get some help." And he said, "Shall I come with you?" I said, "No, because you don't have any clothes on, just stay there. You know, just stay there." And I didn't want to have to carry the guy down the hill and then so my wife like that with this guy with no clothes on. So I just said, "Stay there." So I went and I called 111. You do 000 there, right? We do 111 in New Zealand. And I asked for the ambulance, and they ended up sending the police and the ambulance because I told them he'd been running away from the police, so they were a bit worried that he might be violent or something. He wasn't. But yeah, that's the situation where that people become very degraded, and probably it's because of bad association. Probably he's been taking drugs and so forth, and ruined his life. Completely screwed up his life. The only hope for such people like this, all of us basically, we have our own problems, but is to take shelter of the holy name. There's no other solution. Even one mother and child came to Prabhupada. They were devotees. And the child had terminal cancer, which is very sad. Previously in the other yugas, the parents always died before the children. But now we have an unusual scenario in Kali Yuga that many times the children die before the parents. That's not normal. That's not normal. That's only because of Kali Yuga is a very sinful time where sometimes the children die before the parents. That's not normal. So the kid had terminal cancer and they're like crying and everything coming to Prabhupada. They're devotees. And what he said was, chant Hare Krishna. That's the solution. That is the only prescription. There's no other. What are you going to do? Some miracle to make the cancer go away or whatever like that? No, mate. There's only one solution. Like I said, anything that's born, it must die. You can't stop the death. Whether it's cancer or you get hit by a bus or you have a heart attack, but one or another, it's going to go. A nuclear bomb falls on your head, whatever it is. You die in your sleep. Somehow it's going to happen sooner or later. You can't change that. But the best thing, and that's what Prabhupada said, chant Hare Krishna. That's the loophole. That's the way out of the material world. And we're looking for something else, though, isn't it? Oh no, but save the body, save the body, save. No, mate, you can't save the body. Just chant Hare Krishna. You know, of course, I'm not saying we shouldn't try to look after health, and I spend a lot of time trying to look after my health. I do yoga every day. I eat organic, fresh food every day, and, you know, do oil massage and everything. But I still know it doesn't matter how healthy I try to keep, it's still going to die. And I want to keep it healthy so I can do more service for Krishna. So that's a, you know, good incentive to stay healthy, because you want to do more service for Krishna. But still, even so, it's still going to go. But really, the solution is it seems like too simple. We think in our mind, isn't it? There must be more to it than that. All Prabhupada said is just chant Hare Krishna. You know, but we think, but there must be something else I should do. Actually, no. You know, it's like that. And I'll tell you what, many people do not take to bhakti yoga. You know why? Because they think it's too simple. They think it can't be that good because it's just too easy. There must be something more to it. They think, oh no, you have to do something hard, like stand on your head to become spiritually advanced, you know, and, you know, press your nose and stand on your head and stop breathing and, you know, and plug your ears and do all funny things, you know, and fasting, you know, for weeks and months and everything like that. And no, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he has given us this process. He said that you in Kali Yuga, you're not qualified to do any of these other things, you know, yoga and meditation and austerities and everything. Just chant Hare Krishna. So, but yeah, a lot of people think it's just too simple, too easy. There must be something harder. But no, our materialistic mind is thinking in that way, but that's not correct. It is this very simple process, and we can get the best benefit, the highest perfection, just by chanting Hare Krishna. However, Prabhupada also said, they say it's so simple, but they can't do it, isn't it? That even though it seems, you know, all we have to do is say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. But because of our false ego and our pride in that, people refuse to chant Hare Krishna. So it's not that easy, right? The mind and the false ego are always resisting. No, I don't want to say Hare Krishna. I don't want to say God's names. You know, I don't want to spend, you know, an hour or two a day doing that. You know, I'd rather watch TV for that time or something, make money like that. You know, there's the cartoon Prabhupada used to talk about where the wife tells the husband, chant, chant, chant. And what does the husband say?
Can't.
Yeah, can't. You know, so with the same energy, the same amount of effort, he could have just chanted. But because we're rebellious, see, this is our main problem in Kali Yuga. We're like rebels. If someone tells you to do something, you don't want to do it. Oh, kids, come and clean your room. No, I'm not going to clean it. You clean it. You know, so we're just rebels. You know, we don't like being told what to do. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and he did it himself. Try to understand that. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he didn't tell us to do it. He did it himself. But when he did it himself, he's so happy. And then everyone wants to be happy. And put up your hand if you want to be happy. we all want to put up both hands. We all want to be happy. And he's the example of being so happy. And what was his formula for being happy? It's just chanting Hare Krishna. That's all he did. He just chanted and danced. Chanting, dancing, and feasting. He's so happy. Tears coming out of his eyes sideways. All of his hair was like standing in ecstasy. You know, hairs on the body standing up. It's just always in ecstasy. So we want that. I still remember, I mean, that's the main reason why I joined the Hare Krishna movement. Because the first Hare Krishna I met, he was the happiest person I've ever met in my life. And he's so peaceful, which I was always not peaceful. And he was so knowledgeable, you know, and he could answer my questions. You know, so these are the things that attracted me. You know, it's not because he told me I had to chant Hare Krishna or blah, blah, blah. But I could just see that he had all the things I wanted. He had the happiness I wanted, the peace I wanted, the knowledge I wanted. You know, and I wanted that. So I asked him, you know, how can I be happy like you? And then he said, chant Hare Krishna. I did. You know, so, you know, so this is very special that we don't have to go through a slow process of reincarnating life after life and get a little bit more advanced, We can go back to Godhead in this one lifetime if we chant Hare Krishna. So yeah, let's read this verse, text 5. So 8th chapter, text 5. We'll read the Sanskrit and then we can get into it. Antakale cha mameva
Antakale cha mameva
Smaran muktva kalevaram
Smaran muktva kalevaram
Ya priyati samadbhavam
Ya priyati samadbhavam
Yati nastyatra shamshaya.
Nati yastratim shayam.
This last line, you join the Y of the second word onto the A of the third word. So you go yati, nastyatra samshaya. Then it flows nicely. Yati nastyatra samshaya.
Yati nastatra shamshaya.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a sense as well, it says 3 words. Yati and nasta is 1 word, and samshayam is third word. But in it, it's split in 4.
Yeah.
And whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone at once, attains my nature. Of this, there is no doubt, 100%.
Yeah, so this is the formula for going back to Godhead. We want to remember God when we die. So like I said before, what you're thinking at the time of death is so important. And what should we be thinking about at the time of death? Should be thinking of Krishna, should be thinking of God. And what's the easiest and best way to think of Krishna? Chanting.
If you do entire life, whatever you do, at the end you remember the same thing. If you enjoy your life, you do the shop and the business and all, at the end you remember that. If you do all our life chanting like you, Abhay Prabhu, at the end you remember chanting. Simple as that. It's the whole life journey to the end.
Yeah, it's said actually what happens at the time of death is at that time when the soul's leaving the body, the mind flashes back over all the activities in your life. You know, like a movie, right? We see a movie looks like one continuous picture, but it's actually made up of those little reels. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All those pictures joined together, but they're changing so fast it looks like one motion picture, but it's actually made up of lots of, thousands and thousands of little pictures, right? So your mind flashes back over all these things you did in your life like that. And so, yeah, it's very important, like what Gulshan is saying, that your life was full up with spiritual activities. Then there's a good chance that when you die, then you're going to be remembering those spiritual activities.
Doesn't some say those memories come from your soul?
Those memories are in the mind. They're in the mind, yeah. They're in the mind.
And that one
so the mind is different from the soul. I mean, the soul also has a mind. So there's a spiritual mind and a material mind. So that's where it gets a bit more complicated. You have a material intelligence and a spiritual intelligence. So the soul has a spiritual mind, spiritual intelligence, and a spiritual body. Has a spiritual body, right? There's a spiritual form. So with a spiritual head and a spiritual arms and a spiritual legs, everything's spiritual, right? But that spiritual body and mind, intelligence, and so forth is covered by this material body and material mind, material intelligence, like that. So all those memories of what you did in your life, that's kept in your material mind, If they're materialistic things, if those things, your love for Krishna, well, that's kept in the soul. So, that love for Krishna, that's in the soul. But if it's just like, that you're making money and you're building a skyscraper and everything, that's not in the soul. That's in the mind. That's in the materialistic mind. So, yeah, it really depends.
There was an old story there. There's the one guy, he was about to die that. He was a shopkeeper. And then all his family surrounding that. And he was saying, oh, where's my son? He said, oh, he's here. Just, chant Hare Krishna and all that. He's here, son. He said, what's my daughter-in-law? Oh, he's here, nice, right next to your bed. Where's my wife? He said, right next to the bed, just being calm. He said, where's my grandson? He says, oh, he's right there next to the bed on the left side as well. He said, where's my daughter? He said, oh, just near your feet. Just calm down. He said, where's my son-in-law? He said, right there. And he said, if you all are there, who's at the shop?
Yes, so still thinking about business and money and everything, so it's not good. So he'll probably come back as a cockroach or a rat in the shop. Yeah, that's the thing, thinking about the shop.
Last time he said, oh, who's at the shop looking?
Yeah, so like that, if you're thinking of a shop, you're not going to take birth as a shop. Obviously you can't take birth as a shop, but you'll take birth like I said, as a rat or a cockroach in the shop, or maybe a dog or a person or whatever like that. Like one guy was very attached to his house, right? And is protecting his family. So he took birth as a dog in his next life in the neighborhood. So the dog was roaming around the house trying to protect the house. But the children in the house, not realizing that was their father in his previous life, they would throw stones, throw sticks and stones at the dog, like that, the street dog, like that. So that's the situation, just suffering, due to attachment. But yeah, it's saying that if you can remember God when you die, guaranteed, Krishna's saying here, there's no doubt, if you remember Krishna when you died. So if you do hear about someone and that when they were dying, they were chanting Hare Krishna, or they heard other people chanting Hare Krishna.
Yes, like a Prabhu. When he dropped the body.
Yeah. Other people chanting around, like that as well.
He's got in one hand the Narasimha and other hand is Gurudev Maharaj.
Yeah.
And that he dropped.
Yeah, so there's no doubt that such a person would go back to Godhead if you were
all in our life he was serving in a Melbourne school as well, all the children, Gurukul and all that.
Yeah. And if the body does go through its natural course of old age and disease and stuff, there's a good chance you won't be able to chant, at the time of death, because before death happens, usually what happens is your throat gets filled up with mucus. And that, and you can't chant. However, but if you've made nice friendships with devotees in your life, then they may be around you when you're dying, and they'll be chanting. And it's said the hearing is still working at that time. So maybe the mouth is not working and the eyes maybe not working, but the hearing is working right up till the end. The hearing is working. Actually, the hearing is the most important sense. And, we got 9 processes of bhakti yoga. What's the first process of Shravana? Means hearing. So hearing is so important. We don't have any process for self-realization which seeing is required. Actually, seeing is not important. We can throw away this one. But hearing is very important. We have to hear the spiritual vibration. Like now we're hearing Bhagavad Gita, or hearing Krishna's name. So hearing that goes right into the soul and connects us with Krishna. So that's very important. So then there's a very nice story, because there is a doubt, right, that we might have. I mean, there's no doubt that if you remember Krishna when you die, you'll go back to Godhead. But there is a doubt that, what if I don't remember Krishna when I die? Then what's going to happen to me? So that doubt might be there. So one time in South India, this is about 1,000 years ago, there was one great spiritual master named Ramanuja and Acharya. He was a pure devotee of God, of Krishna, and he had a very special relationship with a deity. Now this deity was called Ranganath. Ranganath, that's a form of Vishnu with 4 arms lying down. It's huge form lying down. And a very ancient deity. You can go there today and see it. An amazing, massive temple. And he could have a conversation with the deity. He's that level devotee. So he asked a question to the deity. He said, "My Lord, what will happen to your devotee if at the time of his death he does not remember you?" That's a good question. And then the deity was silent for some moments. And then the deity spoke. The deity, Vishnu himself spoke, said, "If my devotee does not remember me at the time of death, then I will remember my devotee." Wow, wow, wow. What's that about? That's love, So love is not a one-way thing, that the devotee, the bhakta, loves God. And that's it. No, it's two-way. The devotee loves God and God loves the devotee. So just like the devotee is thinking about God because we love God. We think about God. But because God loves us, he's thinking about us. So God is thinking, well, my devotee has spent a good part of his life chanting Hare Krishna. My devotee has gone to the temple so many times and bowed down to me. And he's offered me so much food. And he's helped build a temple for me, or a preaching center, or whatever for me, or done so many things. He's made garlands for me, or he's grown vegetables and fruits for me, whatever it may be. He's helped my devotees to improve their health, whatever it may be. He's helped make other people devotees through preaching and so forth. He's distributed so many books, and distribute a lot of prasad and whatever. So Krishna remembers all the activities that we have done. Even if we can't remember him, he'll remember us at the time of death, what we have done in our life. And then also, what is the doubt about that you're going to go back to Godhead? You understand? If God is thinking about you when you die, do you think there's any doubt where you're going to go?
100% to Krishna Loka. What are you talking
100%.
about?
You got the main man is thinking of you. Yeah. The main man is thinking of you. Then there's no doubt where you're going to go. He's thinking about you. And that's like, wow, when you think about how much God loves us, think about that. Spend time when you're doing your activities, thinking about how much God loves us, There's more evidence that God loves us. What's some more evidence that how much God loves us? Where does the sun, who's providing the sun shine?
Krishna.
Krishna.
God's eyes.
Who's providing the moonshine so you can see at night?
All coming from Krishna.
Who's providing the air that you breathe every day? Every moment, Who provides the water that you need? You can't live without water, isn't it? You can't live without air. Who's providing the food? The fruit, the vegetables, the grains, the dairy products.
All coming from.
And it's all coming from Krishna. Why is Krishna giving it to us? Do we pay him for it? Is he getting anything out of it? He gives it all for free. It's only human beings that charge for those things. God is giving it for free. We put in a bottle and then I'll charge you for the water. But, God's actually providing the water for free, So he's giving it all to us for free just because he loves us, because he's maintaining us, because we're his children. He loves us just like the Father, right? He works hard to maintain all of his children, and that's for free, because he loves his children. So the same way the Supreme Father, Krishna, he's maintaining all of his children because he loves them. What to speak of, if you become a devotee. I'm talking about everyone. He loves everyone. Even you're a worst person. Even you're a demon, not a devotee at all. He's still giving you the water and the air and the sunlight and the food and your body and everything. But then if you become a devotee on top of that, everyone is a son of God. So he loves them. But on top of that, if you try to love him by doing bhakti, by serving him, then what more you will get? So much more. Then he's thinking about you when you're dying. He's thinking about you. An ordinary, he's giving everyone water and food and everything, but he's not thinking about anyone else when they're dying. Krishna's not thinking about the atheists when they're dying. He's giving the atheists food and water and air and sunshine, but he's not thinking about the atheist when he's dying. Yamaraj is thinking about the atheist when he's dying. He's going to take him. But Krishna's thinking about the devotee when he dies, and he takes him back to Godhead. It's a special favor to the devotees, So, and that's his perfect reciprocation. You're trying your best to love him, then he'll do his best to love you. And then what more can you want? Like I say, if God's thinking about you when you die, what more can you ask for? That's it. You hit the jackpot, mate. You completely hit the jackpot. You won the bigger than lotto. If God's thinking about you when you're leaving. So all that we should be doing is like, wow, God loves us so much. Let me do something for him. He's doing so much for us. He's giving me the water, the air, the food, everything. He's going to take care of me also when I die and bring me back to Godhead. Let me do some for him now while I'm healthy. Let me chant his glories. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And this is our way of saying thank you to him, and asking how can we serve him. Yeah. Okay, so we've got a couple more minutes. Let's just read this short purport.
That it doesn't, after 1 hour, we have to connect and, disconnect, reconnect. It happened today.
Krishna's protecting us from the... Whoever gets there first.
The importance of Krishna consciousness.
Yeah. Read, yeah.
In this verse, the importance of Krishna consciousness is stressed. Anyone who quits his body in Krishna consciousness is at once transferred to the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is the purest of the pure. Therefore, anyone who is constantly Krishna conscious is also the purest of the pure. The word smaran, remembering, is important. Remembrance of Krishna is not possible for the impure soul who has not practiced Krishna consciousness in devotional service. Therefore, one should practice Krishna consciousness from the very beginning of the life. If one wants to achieve success at the end of his life, the process of remembering Krishna is essential. Therefore, one should constantly, incessantly chant Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Lord Chaitanya has advised that one be tolerant as a tree. There may be so many impediments for a person who is chanting Hare Krishna. Nonetheless, tolerating all these impediments, one should continue to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So that at the end of one's life, one can have the full benefit of Krishna consciousness without any doubt.
Joy. So just one more point that one may think hearing this, well, okay, you just have to remember God when you die. So I'll just do whatever I'm doing now. And just when I'm about to die, I'm going to remember God. I'm going to go Hare Krishna. But it's not so easy, as mentioned here, that it's only possible to remember God when you die if you practice. That's why we need to pray. And it's mentioned here, ideally you should practice from the beginning of life. But if that's not possible, like none of us here and the three of us practice from the beginning. So, but just from whatever point you become Krishna conscious, just keep practicing, to think of him, to remember him. So that's our process that we follow, is to help us to remember him. Why do we chant Hare Krishna? So we remember Krishna. Why do we offer food to Krishna? To remember Krishna. Why do we talk about Krishna like what we're doing in Bhagavad Gita? So we can remember Krishna. Why do you bow down the temple? So you remember Krishna. Why do you, put on a dhoti and put on tilak and have a seeker and all these things? To help you remember Krishna. And wear neck beads and everything. It's all these things that help us remember Krishna. When I see Jayanti, I remember Krishna because she's got tilak on, and that reminds me that she's a devotee of Krishna, like that. So all the things that we do help us to remember Krishna. It's the practice, which is preparing us for the final exam. What is the final exam?
Death.
Death is the final exam. So all these little things we're doing now is preparing us for the final exam. Yeah. So that's our lifestyle, is helping us to develop this remembrance of Krishna, and we'll be tested at the time of death. But even like I say, even if we fail that test and we don't remember him, like if you're in a car and you're in an accident, you may not be thinking of him when you're in the car accident or whatever. But Krishna will remember us. So that's plan B. So plan A is that you remember him. But plan B is that if you fail to remember him, he'll remember you. And plan B is the best one. I like plan B more than plan A.
As well.
What's that?
There's a plan C as well.
What's that?
Which is remember Krishna all the time, because death can happen anytime.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah. But the thing is, you don't get plan B without plan A. Means Krishna wants to see that you're trying your best to remember him. And then if you muck it up, he'll remember you. But if you don't try to remember him during your life, then he'll also reciprocate the same way. Like you're not trying to love me? Okay, I'm not going to try also. Like that. So Krishna's very fair. You put your effort in to remember him,
if you are
and then
fully
he'll put an effort in.
There won't be any plan B.
True. Yeah.
If you have fully surrendered, no plan B. It'll be done.
Yeah, no, I know, but practically speaking, because it is Kali Yuga, we're not perfect.
Yeah.
Let's face it. We have many faults. And, we're not 24 hours Krishna conscious. And I'm just being practical. I mean, that's the ideal, to be 24/7 Krishna conscious. But even if we're not, even if there are some gaps, that Krishna will remember that we did try our best. So that's the main thing. We should always just try our best. And even if we're not, fully made it, Krishna will fill in the gaps. He will make up our shortcomings like that. And that's so sweet. That's so nice. There's no better person to love and worship than Krishna. He loves us more than anyone else. Anyway, I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Human love with a condition, his love is unconditional.
Yeah, that's a fact. Well, it's great to see you again, Bob. Thanks for joining us.
Lovely, mate. And I'll see you next Thursday.